Welcome to EIPIP meeting 91. This is issue number 278 on EIPIP GitHub repository. I have shared agenda link in the chat. So for today's discussion, we have open issues, pull requests, and some other topics. We'll perhaps discuss things that we have discussed in the past meeting, and we'll see where we are at that. We'll share a EIPS insight about editing office hour, and we will follow some action items from the past meetings, and I see one announcement added to the agenda here. So starting with the first item, these are changes to final proposal. We have two PRs added here. The first PR, which is 7806, was recommended by Panda to be discussed here. This is about updating EIP 6059. The pull request number is 7806. Panda, if you would like to maybe provide a brief background about this PR. Yeah.
Sure thing. When I tried to mute myself, I crashed. So that was unfortunate. I'm not sure whether, now I think about it, whether or not that was due to me pressing the mute button or switching to Wi-Fi. If it's the Wi-Fi, I might actually crash again, but in the meantime, one is because we don't actually have a process for indicating stuff is superseded, and I just want to double check that we continue to not actually that no editor actually wants to pursue superseded as an actual thing that people can do.
Yeah, I think it was a bit complicated on how to actually deal with superseding because we used to have it, and the question arose like, if an EIP by a different author comes in and says, I'm superseding this EIP, that kind of is conveying that from the point of standardization, this is the next thing, when the other author may not agree. So we just kind of removed that totally.
Yeah. So we should just probably close that PR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the past there was also a discussion about ERC 223, which was, according to the author, should be superseding ERC 2020. And this was the similar decision at the time as well.
Well, that's a bit different because the author is
that's right. Yeah, but superseding in general, I don't think it has been a precedent here. I mean, like definitely it was in the past, but not
there
anymore.
is a precedent actually.
Yeah.
EIP 820 and 1820.
Oh.
I'm just thinking that the more recent precedents are that the superseding is not. I'm wondering if we might want to allow maybe adding a comment in perhaps the security considerations. If for example, a new EIP allows for fixing of the security issue and it's otherwise pretty similar in content to the old one. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but thoughts, anyone?
I didn't catch the last thing you mentioned.
Well, I'm just wondering maybe if it might make sense to allow for updating of the security consideration section if there is an EIP that is otherwise pretty similar in content to the old one, but also fixes a security issue.
Were you saying if it's final?
Yes, but only the security consideration section, no other section, not the front matter.
Yeah, I think that would generally be reasonable. I also wonder if it should be possible for an author to withdraw a final EIP or have a different status for something that was final but deprecated by the author.
maybe final hyphen withdrawn could be a status. Final dot superseded.
Your mic is really low, Victor.
Victor or me?
Victor's mic is very quiet.
My microphone is broken. So
There.
let me use. I think final dash deprecated or final dash superseded by would be something good to consider, at least in the context of ERCs. We can borrow the wisdom in IETF where they allow they specifically have a place where author can say, hey, this one is superseded, you should use the other one. And we even use, I think, RFC 8190 that was superseded by that is superseding the 2197. The like must and should, it was updated before. So at least in the ERC context, this makes sense. The difficulty is in governance, so who get to decide which one is superseding which one, and does the author get credit in the next one as well?
So I think in terms of credit in the next one, I think no, the author does not get credit because of the way CC0 should work. In terms of actually superseding, I think again the final hyphen withdrawn thing would be better, but also allowing for a superseded front entry, which indicates a list of EIPs that the author considers to supersede the current one.
Yeah, none of these sound perfect. We might have to spend some time and think a bit more about it. I mean, we don't want the situation where something is final and widely used, and the author decides they want to go rogue and quote unquote withdraw it.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing would be some phrasing along the lines of the author considers EIP X, EIP Y, and EIP Z to have superseded this EIP, or something like that.
Yeah, in context with what Matt says, one example is ERC20 has widely been used, and the lack of ability to check who they sent to is being addressed to in 223 ERC 223 and 1363, and also the author himself has in different occasions says that needs to be superseded or needs to be deprecated. Things like that is an example for motivation like this.
So yeah, in that situation, I think that we should, again, I think the correct thing to do is defer to the authors, and again, use the phrasing, the authors consider these EIPs to have superseded this current EIP. And maybe we could also add some lines along, this may or may not reflect community opinion.
In my mind, like having a superseded thing over there is kind of deciding a winner or suggesting community what is the best thing, best proposal or best standard available here to be adopted. But if we go by the handbook that is recently updated, 5069 I'm talking about, I think the recommendation here are for editors, like we do not decide winners. We are just like editors are just making corrections on the proposal. They are just making sure that proposal is right. And it is up to an individual, an implementer or a DApp developer to pick what is the best suited for them.
We wouldn't be deciding winners. The authors of the previous EIPs could decide that they would prefer if a different EIP was used instead. And that would be literally kind of what it would indicate. Not that some EIPs are better than others, but in the subjective view of the original EIP's authors, certain EIPs should be used instead.
I'm imagining this may lead to add an additional field to preamble. And if that is an additional, perhaps optional, may lead to some of the confusion, but yeah, I'm totally open to the idea, whatever group decides.
Is there anyone particularly opposed to that idea? I'm gonna go with that as being no.
Right. So just to understand it correctly, are we hoping to have a preamble field added as superseded by, and we would enter EIP number over there? If that is a proposal, we can perhaps add it to the next meeting as well, just for other editors to join. Though I know Sam is not here, so we could collect some feedback from there as well and have a decision in the next or following
Yes,
meetings.
I can draft that PR, and it would probably be a field that says superseded by, but also the way it would actually be displayed is not as superseded hyphen by EIP numbers. It would be a very clear indication that this is not the editor deciding. This is an opinion of the original EIP's authors that certain ones should be used instead.
Sounds good. If
So-
we have a, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. So if you treat it as a deprecation problem, you can leave the endorsement of what it should be replaced by as an optional. So if your concern is you want to make sure that people can, disavow old things, but you're worried that they might have to implicitly endorse the new thing, you can make that optional.
That seems like something that definitely should be possible. Yes.
There's,
Maybe
it cuts both ways,
supersede.
right? It's also kind of a jerk move to deprecate something and not give somebody a good way to replace it. But, there can be valid reasons for doing that sometimes.
Yeah, maybe a superseded by hyphen false.
I mean, I would just set the status from final to deprecated, and in the preamble put, if the deprecators have an opinion that it should be deprecated by something else, update it there.
It would still remain a final status. Again, nothing about the EIP would change apart from basically nothing about the EIP should change except for that opinion being displayed.
Okay, then it's just a matter of phrasing then.
Correct. I think we can move on to the next agenda item.
That is correct. So just to get the summary here about this particular PR 7806, are we going to keep it or we are just closing it?
Let's keep it for the time being. We are kicking that can down the road.
All right. Keep it. All right, moving on to the next one, we have another proposal, a PR for a final EIP. EIP number is 1559 and the pull request number is 7423. I think this has been sitting for quite some time. I wonder if any editor has any thought on this pull request.
Could you send the link in the chat?
Yeah, I just shared. So this proposal is, this pull request is to clarify who pays the gas fees here.
Yeah, I mean, it seems fine.
And I see it has already been approved by Panda in the month of July as well. So perhaps it can be merged. Would it require?
It looks like it's been approved by Panda. Well, me. Why did I refer to myself in the third person? That was weird. And like client. So I think we only need one more reviewer anyway.
Do we? Pending reviewer just suggest ETH bot.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to merge with all of the linting errors?
No, it will need to be manually merged, you're right.
Okay,
But-
can anyone maybe leave some comment for the,
But Victor, do you approve?
I think Gajendra Singh just approved.
Okay, I'll add it to the merge queue.
Perfect. Moving on to the next section, that is a list of some manual merge. I believe it was discussed in earlier meeting and perhaps none of the editor objected for it, and it is queued for manual merge. The pull request number is 7505 and 7506. If someone here may be able to merge it.
I believe Light Client has manual merge permissions. Or is it Access?
I'm hoping it must be Sam and Light Client, but Sam is the author here. Wonder, Matt, if you can maybe take a look and be able to merge it.
If Light Client doesn't have, if it is Access that has override permissions, can we actually remove Access for the override permissions and transfer those to Light Client? Because Light Client is a lot more active.
I can manually merge.
Okay, feel free to do that for those two PRs and also for the PR we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think that is merged. 7423 is now merged. And yeah, whenever you get a chance, please merge for 7505 and 7506. Moving on to discussions continued from the past meeting, we have another pull request to update EIP 721, which is a final EIP, but the pull request is also coming up from the original author. And we discussed in the last meeting, no one objected. I wondered if this can be manually merged as well. The pull request number is 7550.
So I do approve of this one. It maybe changes a tiny bit too much, but I also don't mind that because in general, this is more compliant than it used to be.
Sounds good.
Specifically, it changes almost all instances of references to other EIPs and links, and it doesn't need to do that. But honestly, that's just bike chilling.
Yeah, we'll have to look at this a bit. This description is pretty.
The
pretty
description
pointed.
is copied directly from the simple summary it used to be.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay. I've never heard someone call it a deed.
Yeah, he
I thought
refers
they were
to it as
inventing
a
that.
deed.
Yeah, it is not full sense wording.
Yeah, in that case, I'll take a look at it and we'll see if we can merge it.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next item listed here. That is call for input. As we know, with the new process, we are trying to have decision collected over issues created, and it is for EIP editors to respond within 1 month's period. Issue 263 to 270, 7 issues here, plus 272 and 273. All of them are due on October 5th, which is a day after today. So I have not included the decision, hoping that we should give another 24 hours for those editors who may not have gotten the opportunity to respond to it or may have missed it, want to add it in the last minute. That includes a bunch of proposals, including editors active status, like which editor could be removed, like they have listed all the editors, if this is good to be removed or not. And then there is another very important input needed for keeper of consensus election. So I would recommend all EIP editors here, or maybe listening to the call after this, please take a look at all the open issues and respond to the issues, like add your input, and perhaps we can discuss the result in the next meeting. But in the meantime, if people would like to discuss any particular issues, we can do that. Happy to wait as well, but yeah, please go ahead and let us know if anyone has any particular thing that they would like to discuss.
I see Light Client just commented on the AXIC editor removal. Would we be willing to kind of, is there a system in place for like temporarily removing an editor, like for like a short, like 1 month period of time, and then they get automatically re-added? Because I think none of us here actually want him gone because we think that contributions wouldn't be useful. I think we want him basically not to block any of the stuff.
Not sure if blocking is a concern, because
Well, it is
we
a
are
concern
trying.
because of the way that the current charter is set up. Basically, every editor needs to have voted in order for it to pass before 30 days. And currently, we're trying to get stuff passed before the 30-day mark, which is currently not happening because AXIC has not been reviewing the call for inputs.
I agree. Basically all the feedback from the editors, at least the first feedback from editors, should at least happen in the first week of the issue itself. I mean, usually, but if it doesn't happen for like a month-long time, it's not really, good thing. It's a waste of time to wait and just then to see that, okay, that response is never gonna come, and we'll anyway go with the decision without that particular's editor's feedback.
So the way the charter currently works is that basically there is well, first of all, I'm not sure we actually have enough votes to elect anyone as kind of the first keeper of consensus without AXIC voting. Additionally,
Well, I think after the 30 days, we look to see how many
After the
people voted.
let's see, has it actually been 30 days?
I don't
It's 2
think
days
quite
until
yet.
30 days. Shall we, for the time being, consider Samuelson as like a very temporary keeper of consensus?
Is there any specific decision item that we are waiting? I mean, like, I know Sam is on vacation till 17th of this month, and
The specific item is kind of call for input, editor removal, AXIC, on the EIPIP GitHub issue number 266. And by the way, I do approve, like, again, I have been advocating for this kind of a reduced requirement editor thing where by default, kind of you are considered to have abstained in your vote until you actually vote. So basically, for the purposes of quorum, you don't need to vote, but your vote still counts if you do vote.
I actually like the current way the charter is set up so that, everyone has to give some sort of a review, even if it's to abstain. Basically, I think the point what we want to make over here is that there needs to be a responsiveness to the issues that are being raised, and that's why this particular issue exists, that there is no response from exec, and if he can participate actively, then definitely we all also have expressed that we can sort of reinstate the editorship.
The problem is that I think we all kind of want Axic to be able to participate wherever he can, but we also recognize that at the moment he's not able to participate on everything. His input would be valuable for a lot of these things, but we also should be able to pass these things without his input for the time being. Yes. How do you correctly pronounce that? I guess I haven't figured that out yet. Axic?
I
Can
think
anyone
that's,
help me with this?
yeah, that's how we refer to him, as his full name is Alex Barigzazi.
I'll just say Alex then. Yeah, I think we all want Alex to be able to participate like uninterrupted, but I think we also don't want him to interrupt us. And
Maybe we
being
have inactive status where basically we say that this editor
That's
is, but
what I was proposing, having an intermediate status where, for example, if say you're on vacation, like that would be something that would be useful. Like, hey, I'm going to be on vacation. I might not be able to keep on top of everything, but if there's something that catches my attention, I would still like to review it or something like that. Like that is something I would like, or even more permanently as like a like currently like you haven't been kind of on top of everything, but also we still think that your contributions when you've contributed have been valuable. Kind of something like that. Like Client, you're the other kind of governing editor on this. What do you think?
I'm not sure if I have a good thought of how to deal with this. Alex has put a lot of time into the EIPs, setting it up to be where they are today, and I know that he hasn't been as active for the past year or so, but I want to find a way for him to continue contributing as long as he's desiring to.
Yes, and it's pretty clear that he does desire to continue to contribute. So do you think of that kind of almost like vacation mode thing as a good compromise for the meantime?
I also don't really want to make these processes more complicated and add like different types of statuses for people. So I kind of feel like
To that
we should
end,
see.
to that end, I would agree. However, something I will note is actually, I think we can do this without actually requiring a consensus vote because of kind of the ability for us to kind of delegate stuff. So I think that all AXIC should need to do is just say, hey, I delegate my votes to like whenever a new call for input is received, I automatically vote abstain until my vote is changed. No consensus required.
yeah, I think it should be easy enough in the sense that I can just say that I'm on a sabbatical, and that's it, and mention from this time period to this time period.
Light Client, do you agree that that should be possible within the current framework?
Yeah, I think either saying I am going to be away for this period of time or I delegate my votes to the specific person either of those would be acceptable. I'd rather not change the actual charter description to support it explicitly, but I think implicitly this is something that we can accept.
Okay, that's good. I will therefore change my vote on the call for input.
So does it change? Like I'm trying to find out. I don't think I see Victor's vote here for exec. Because the process suggests that it has to be unanimous minus the editor being removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen
Yeah.
as a very valuable community member and editor, and he was very good at authoring and reviewing. So skill-wise, experience-wise, I look up to him and we like him to stay. But the current status is that he was not being active enough. So I think it's more about the intention. I think my view is similar to what Matt says. As long as he wanted to continue contributing, I'll be voting to keep him. If he doesn't have enough intention to stay, or if we cannot continue to provide a good environment to motivate him to stay, I think we need to think about what we can change, or if he wanna leave this duty. Yeah, but I think it's really up to his own intention, and I just want to make sure that we have a good communication with him and understand what his intention is, and then also he voiced out his commitment.
Sounds good. Maybe Panda, if you can update your
I have.
decision on this. Oh, you did. Good.
Yeah,
And Victor, if you
just
can
said-
also add.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I see your comment now. Yes. Victor, you can also maybe add your thoughts over here. And the last date on this is October 6th. So I know by that time Sam will not be back, but if we have unanimous decision, we can perhaps mark this as, solved.
So-
and
So the way the unanimous really works here is if everyone unanimously votes yes, it doesn't require unanimous no vote as long as a single person votes no. That would be like and also me now. Then it is basically automatically closed. So I think probably this one's not going to pass. As for all of the other call for inputs, I'm pretty sure, like client, you've reviewed all of them, but can you just double check you have? I'm also checking myself. Oh, like client, you haven't actually voted for the first keeper of consensus election. You should do that.
all right. Maybe we can revisit this in the next meeting to see where we are at
Like
with
mine,
all the
can you-
decisions.
Actually, there's a few of these call for inputs that, like client, you haven't reviewed yet. Would you mind doing those kind of now-ish, perhaps during the call? Like the majority of them are just editor removals that I think most of us would agree are obviously no, but had to be opened just to like as a formality. And there's also the election, which is important enough that I think we do actually like, well, I mean, without you or someone else, we don't actually have enough votes to finalize it. So please do that.
All right, yeah, I see a response here in the chat, says yes. So I am hoping that he would take our time to respond to all the issues here. Respond to call for input added here in the issues. In the essence of time, let's move on to the next item, which is about repo split. EIP number here is 7329. I suppose in the last meeting, the EIPIP meeting, editors decided that there would be a meeting to discuss Matt's earlier pull request. And if there are any changes to that, I wonder if there is anything that
Can I
the
propose-
group would like to share.
Can I propose as the time for the meet? 1 week from today, normal EIPIP time. I guess not everyone's here, but there's, well, Light Client and Victor, are you available at that time?
What time? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
1 week from today, same time as the normal EIPIP meeting.
1 week from today, so next week, right?
Next week.
I think I should be able to make it.
Yeah, it works for me, but I think we should probably have Sam there also.
Yeah, like
And
obviously
unfortunately,
we
I
need
don't.
to check with everyone.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
just
I
don't
think it
think we can like pull him from vacation to split the repos.
Also,
Right,
speaking
Sam.
of the, also this is a pretty last minute change as to splitting the repos. I have come around to actually, I agree that splitting repos is a pretty good idea. I still think that it's core that differs from most of the other EIP types, not ERC. And I, again, still would kind of prefer if it were the core EIPs that were split. This is a last minute change, and I don't imagine that that anyone's gonna like approve of it. But like, just throwing it out there, Light Client, Victor, what do you think?
I felt that interface seems to go closer to ERCs. I know that Matt has a preference for interface and network to be deprecated. So far, ERCs are all about smart contracts. If network and interface are deprecated, some of them can go into execution spec and consensus spec. Some of them seems to be relevant to other things such as the recently finalized 6913, the one that allows multiple wallets provider to be injected into Chrome into browser environment. Those things needs to have a home, and I like to know what people think on this meeting about those kind of EIP or ERC should go into.
So I think the way it was supposed to be with interface was kind of everything that was in between smart contracts and applications wanting to interface with smart contracts. Well, yeah, Ergo interface. Unfortunately, what I think it's become, and then ERC would be everything that doesn't fit into any other category, Ergo, Ethereum request for comments. The problem is that instead it's been the other way around. ERC has become only kind of smart contract related stuff, and then everything else has now gotten into interface. I think there is not too much distinction between interface and ERC. Ergo, that was why I tried to like add that thing that like moved interface into ERC and some of them into core. I'm still not sure. Like, I think Light Client did not like any of them going into core. If so, that's fine. But like at the we've gotten really off topic here. We're talking about this repo split. What I'm suggesting is, for now, does it make more sense to split ERCs and everything that's not core out into a separate repo, or does it make sense to split only ERCs and leave core and everything that's not ERC in the repo?
I think what we decided was that anything that requires hard fork and needs to be implemented on protocol level would go into EIPs and everything else into ERCs.
Okay, and this is the repositories or the kind of categories?
We also decided not to have any categories and deprecate the categories, and so
Yeah,
they are just
but-
two repositories.
Okay,
And-
so
Had an
So,
idea and also
with-
sort of tag many
with
categories.
that, yeah, with that in mind, I'm actually going to be closing my call for input for removing the networking and interface categories, because that seems to be kind of since that kind of, well, actually I won't close the call for input. I'm just going to change the decision to get rid of the networking and interface categories, and then close the original PR. Because that seems to be effectively what we've decided on already. Victor, you're unmuted. Do you have something to say?
Oh, I think I agree with what Gajender says. I think we simply think alike. Anything that hard forks require a much more consensus, and then anything that doesn't require hard fork is like you do it if you like, and we'll see how many people.
So I agree with that definition. That seems like a pretty well-defined one. Minus, again, it leaves networking up in this nebulous state where it actually does have, so networking, despite not kind of directly being able to cause hard forks, because again, it's not part of the chain, it's just how the nodes talk to one another. Nonetheless, if you, again, it does have the power to cause chain splits, if I understand correctly, if it's kind of like basically like think of if a networking EIP was made that kind of had a basically made some backwards incompatible change, which shouldn't happen because of the way networking governance. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see, but like it is to some degree consensus critical. Does anyone disagree with it being consensus critical?
So I think we need to look at the model. I mean, whether it's consensus critical or not, because I mean, there's absolutely networking changes that can be ignored and still reach consensus, and you can get networking wrong and still reach consensus. But it's the developer audience that's looking at those is where things differ. So core would be like the core developers working on the core consensus and execution layer clients, and ERCs would be like DApp developers. And there's also looking at the comment thread, and I based on some of the other things I've been reading in the community, a separate wallets group that would deal with issues like the 6968 or whatever EIP, that one about the injection of how you marshal a wallet from a DApp page. I think the developer audiences is more important than what other lines we draw around it. It's who's going to look at these and decide they need to be implemented, whether or not it requires a hard fork, whether or not it causes consensus failures. It's which particular layer in the stack are these changes going into, I think is the more important consideration.
The problem is that networking is its own layer here and doesn't therefore fall into either of the other two. I would
Like, what's an example of a networking layer that does not address consensus or execution client?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that, for example, one of them was just a way to kind of export the validation keys, which, to be fair, that one doesn't actually need to be networking and would be perfectly fine as an ERC, as I think Light Client pointed out. But at the same time, to me, it definitely looks like networking EIPs share more in common with core EIPs process-wise than they do with, well, except maybe they don't. Kind of what I'm thinking of is that like core devs already encompass two very distinct groups, the kind of execution layer groups and the consensus layer groups. And I think that probably the networking group would be pretty easily integrated into this system.
Yeah, I think it works well.
exists.
Because when I hear
But
networking, I
I
think like
can't-
dev P2P or P2P lib. I don't think of like JSON RPC. So I think about lower level networking that's below everything on the stack. So putting it in ERC, none of the ERC people care about the particular packet structure of a dev P2P packet, or whether it should be deprecated and going to lib P2P. So based on that, we can probably exclude it from ERC anyway.
But we also can't speak on behalf of the core devs here, and whether or
I'm a
not
core
they
dev.
do.
I'm speaking on behalf of the core devs.
Oh, great, perfect. So you would be okay with kind of integrating networking people into the core dev kind of.
Yes.
Okay, and in that case, we will currently transfer the networking EIPs into the ERC repository, but if you ever want them, feel free to take them for now.
Can I use one example to help being maybe evil's advocate, devil's advocate,
Sure
and
thing.
with you. So one example is that Whisper has been used for sharing mempool with each other, and actually, if people want to propose something different, they could, and they should be able to. And in fact, I think it would be good for people to have this ability to have competing proposal, and some proposal can explore censorship resistant approach, maybe even add their own incentives approach. So that is something that could be addressed, that maybe core dev needs to look into it, but also a broader audience, the less control needs to be in would benefit this kind of thought exercise. So far, if you want to run your own miner, if you want to run your own mine cluster, you can actually just share them in a database if you want to. So this is significantly different from what needs to be in consensus layer or in execution layer. If we use that as a thought exercise, what would be your thoughts?
My thought would be to put it into core because it's most of the kind of work that core devs do. I think one measure we could use is if it shows up on one of Italic's roadmaps, it's probably going to be in core. And so that would be Whisper.
I am not sure if I hear that I mean, not like competing to which one wins. I mean, competing to coexist even longer.
I'm sorry, repeat that. I missed it.
So basically allowing different sharing approach to coexist for a much longer time, like a long term, you can have multiple approach to share your transactions, to share your mempool.
So mempool is absolutely a core dev consideration. It doesn't have to be involved in a hard fork, I think, for it to be in the core devs. It's not the layer above that the core is. I mean, we're talking about sharing transactions. That immediately sounds right at the core layer of producing the networking consensus. So that's why I don't think that the requires hard fork is necessarily the right standard with it. It's more the core dev audience that's going to be addressing it. Because stuff like PBS and EPBS is also shown up on Vitalik's roadmap, and that is stuff when you're interacting with the transaction pool that the core devs typically concern themselves with, and are concerned about when they see, or not concerned about when they see other developments. They think when I say concerned, I say take interest in is probably a better phrase than concerned about, but they would take interest in developments like this, and possibly one way to look at it is things that might end up becoming merged into the core protocol, even though they're not merged right now, is the other sort of thing. I don't think like ERC20 is going to be merged in the core protocol. But again, the stuff that you mentioned, like, standardizing the way transaction gossip happens long-term for storing, for stuff like proposer builder separation, think those are right up the lane of the sort of discussions that the core devs as an audience discuss. So that's why I feel the separation based on audience is what is most relevant. And I see right now probably 3 audiences. There would be like a wallet audience, a DApp audience, and a core dev audience.
So yeah,
Most interfaces would move to ERC. Yes, I would probably agree with that.
so can I kind of say for now we are basically, when the split happens, we are sending networking and core to one repository and ERC and interface to another, and also probably allowing transfer, because there's going to be some things that eventually we probably feel should not be in that repository.
I think transfers are fine. I think when we get a full topic group or working group model up as well, we need to consider that too, and possibly consider multiple ownership of like of a spec, where there's like a primary owner and like, you know, other interested groups that want to track it as well. I think that's a topic worth discussing too. But I think this is an interim step until we get the functional topic group model up.
Okay, so for the time being, do we think that it should just be? Do we think that we need both sides to agree to transfer an EIP, or just the side that wants the EIP, or just the side that doesn't want the EIP?
I mean, what does it mean to transfer an EIP?
So obviously we're going to have 2 repos, and it's literally deleting the file in one repo and adding it to another.
I mean, yeah, but it's not so simple. Like, we have links that go to that repo. We have links that go to eips.ethereum.org. And so what, like every time we want to transfer these, we have to set up this redirection and things.
So I think that we're probably going to have to rejig the website. So right now we don't actually have a way to do that redirect. So we're actually going to have to create a new repo that basically, because in the repo split EIP, it does say that there should be a new website. However, there's a few things that, again, would need changing before that can become a reality. The first thing is that we need kind of a way for that to be able to happen. Like, we might have a subdomain set up, but like none of us actually have the power to set that subdomain. Additionally,
The subdomain is already set.
yeah, but well, the subdomain is set up to be able to like have a GitHub Pages site there, but also there needs to be a GitHub Pages site to put there. And right now, like right now, there is actually a GitHub Pages site at ercs.ethereum.org.
Yeah, it's, I think, a private repo right now, ERC, Ethereum/ERCs. We have control over it. It's really just a matter of putting the correct files in the repo and making sure that the configuration of the website is set for ERCs versus EIPs.
Okay, I see. So what I think they've currently done is actually just named it to EIP.ethereum.org, and that basically means that the 2 sites are currently mirrors of one another. So they have it set up kind of in a temporary way. For the time being, can I propose that I basically take out the website code from the EIP's repo and stick it in a new one?
I mean, why not just keep it where it is and have the C? I mean, the CNAME is set to ERCs right now, so it's a different website.
Because when the repo split happens, again, we have to set up all the links to the new site so that things don't, like eips.ethereum.org/EIP/EIP20 don't give a 404 page. So all those redirects will have to be set up. And well, for one thing, if I'm being honest, I don't think anyone in the core dev team actually knows enough Jekyll to be able to make those happen. I believe I am currently the resident website expert for this. And even then, it's going to be a lot of hassle and is going to require a bunch of configuration files. And I'm not actually sure even how I would go about doing that. I mean, one thing I would do, like, that would be extraordinarily temporary, is instead of deleting all the EIP files, I would have to like go through each of them and stick like, yeah, now that I think about it, I don't even know how I would do that.
I mean, that's kind of what the script does on the original PR. It goes through all the ERCs, updates them with text that says this has been moved to this repository.
Oh, but it does not automatically redirect, and it does not change the canonical URL.
It does not automatically redirect yet.
Okay, so then the website change itself has to be blocked until that is fixed, because the canonical URL must be changed at the very least. And again, so this is again why I think it might be worth separating out the website from the rest of the kind of the EIP's repository, because honestly, every single other bit of cooling, like linting, like the review bot, like all of these are outside of the EIP's repo because they don't need to be inside the EIP's repo. Things don't updates to the EIP review bot happen after changes to EIP1. They follow each other, but like, yeah. So the Ethereum.org, so the reason why this is all trickier than it would actually usually be is because of the fact that we're using GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages does not support 302 permanent redirects. So you would have to, I think the way that you would tell search engines, hey, this page is moved, is by updating the canonical URL and having another meta tag that has an auto refresh of 1 second to the new URL. But yeah, I think we're nearing the end. Basically, Light Client, can I just confirm that it would be okay for me to try to at least separate out the website?
I'm pretty against it. I'm happy to like review a proposal for doing so, but generally it feels like something that I don't think we should do.
Let's discuss this further on Discord then, because we are at 10:01.
Yeah, I have to hop off. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for the call, Pooja.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you in 2 weeks from now. Have a great day.